Yes, I'll do that.
Jason.
Yeah. Okay, we're ready to go.
So we'll call the Morrow County Board of Commissioners meeting to order, and we'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First, a quick announcement. Chair Dave Sykes, he is not feeling well today, so he's zooming in, and he'd asked that I would. He's not being here in person. So I will be acting as chairman today. And we'll start with public comment. Is there any public comment in the room? Anybody on Zoom? If there's anybody on Zoom that'd like to give public comment, please use the raise your hand feature. See anybody, Matt?
I don't.
Okay, seeing no public comment, we'll move on to the next issue. Consideration and adoption of the agenda.
I think the agenda looks good. I have no questions about it.
Did
I know about that?
I don't know.
We have Blue Mountain Community College here. It's not on the agenda for some reason. I might have missed that.
Okay,
We could ask it to add them on for department reports.
absolutely. Do you want to put them in the front or at the end?
That'd be great.
That'd be great. Front, all right. Okay. I move to adopt the agenda as presented with the addition of Blue Mountain Community College at the start of department reports.
We will second that. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. So we're moving right in. Blue Mountain Community College, you're up.
Morning, Commissioners. Thank you very much for the opportunity and for the consideration and flexibility. I really do appreciate it. For those that I haven't had a chance to meet personally or those on Zoom, I'm Mark Browning. I have the honor of serving as the 8th president of Blue Mountain Community College here in Northeast Oregon. Joining me today is our board member from Morrow County, Chris Brown from Heppner, who is one of our stalwart leaders. He has and continually demonstrates the commitment to not only this institution, but to represent the people of Morrow County. And you should be very pleased and know that he represents you in very fine fashion. Also with me today is Jordan Monaco, our Director of College Relations. So thank you very much for the presentation. We like to just come touch base with you a couple of times a year, let you know kind of how some things are happening. So we'll just go ahead and walk through the presentation, and Matt, however it works best for you, I'll just let you know next slide. But we just kind of want to set the landscape today, tell you kind of where we're at, how we got here, and some of the ideas that we have for the college moving forward here. So let's go ahead and go on more. Just as a reminder, as we set the landscape, our literal landscape is about 18,000 square miles. We have not only Morrow County, Umatilla County, and Baker County, but we also have 3 other counties that we serve in and around, kind of mixed through that between Union, Wallowa, and Grant County. So we have a campus in Pendleton, but also 4 centers where we have physical locations, but we are literally in every community throughout in a number of different capacities between workforce training, community education, and dual credit. So thanks very much. Just by the way, the 18,000 square miles is the largest district by a long shot of any community college of the 17 here in the state. I was just in Nashville at our national meetings and was talking to some folks, and I was trying to explain to them our district is bigger than the state of Maryland. Folks that are not from the West have a hard time picturing that, and I'm like, yeah, it's 3.5 hours from one end of our district to the other at 80 miles an hour. We do that a lot. We'll be in Baker City tonight for a board meeting. So this is just kind of a
You're going 80 miles.
Maybe we'll reframe that kilometers.
Apparently I need to make some phone calls.
He's driving. I just run.
We serve about 4,600 students, but when we say something like head count, that's an actual person. We use the kind of familiar term of a backside in a seat. That's head count. Our full-time equivalent is if we take the total number of credits that we instruct and divide that by 12, that's what the state and the feds use for a calculation if we were to be full-time. So you can see there that we're about 57, 58% full-time and part-time, kind of how things are broken out. This is not atypical. Most colleges have more female than male. Let's go ahead and advance. The vast majority of our students come from our local region and primarily Oregon, but you can see we do get some from the border states. But it is primarily functioning as it was designed to function back in 1962 when the college was established. It's a local and regional community college to serve the citizens of this area, and we're very proud of that. So let's go ahead and I want to get to the next one and see if we put this in there. Dual credit is, for those who are not familiar, very on a large overview, this is college material and courses being taught in your local high schools. Students earn the dual term comes because they receive high school credit in addition to the college credit, not the other way around. And this is a growing area for us. We see it as really one of our primary responsibilities to help provide those opportunities for students. I won't tell you how many years ago, but multiple times, 4.5 decades ago when I was in high school, I was a student who could have used a little push to be a little more engaged in those last couple of years in high school. And dual credit was not a thing in the late 70s. And it is now. We're giving students the opportunity not only to learn, but to get an advancement on the training in whatever field that they're going to choose, whatever it might be. If it requires further education or whatever they can get, we want them to have that opportunity. For those of us who are parents and taxpayers, it is a huge advantage in that the cost to us as a family and to us as a taxpayer is a fraction of what you pay, even at our place as a full-time student. We help leverage other available funds that are available through the Promise Program and some of the others in the state that make these opportunities affordable. Education is that door that opens the opportunity for all students, regardless of what it is they choose to pursue, whatever kind of pursuit they might have. The door is through learning and acquisition of knowledge and skill. In our scenario, you can see that we had over $1 million in savings over what tuition would have been. About 1,500 of those 4,600 students that we serve are dual credit students. So you can see that really is growing. Morrow County is our second highest percentage of dual credit students in our region. And you think about the population of your county that you're overseeing, for that to be second highest for us is really quite a statistical item of note. So let's keep on moving through. We see that as a growth area for us as well too. Even though families are getting smaller, there is something coming in education called the birth dearth, which means that in about 25, 26, high school classes are getting smaller. There's just not as many children coming through the K-12 system. But we see our market still growing because there's capacity within for those students. We're not at near market saturation yet, so we still see an easy 5 to 10 years worth of growth. This kind of just charts our enrollment, the full-time equivalent enrollment over the last 4 to 5 years. College really kind of hit a low point in enrollment in 2020. Number of factors for that, not the least of which was certainly a global pandemic. But you can see we spent the first couple of years kind of getting things solidified and turned back around. These last 2 years have been nice growth years, very manageable for us. That this particular chart shows quite a bit of growth, but if you look at it between really about 1,100 to 1,400, 300 full equivalent of full-time students, that's a manageable figure for us that we can do within the capacity that we have. Next, go again. This is our head count. Our head count's actually down a little bit this year, but the number of credits is up because our full-time equivalent is up. So students are taking more courses. which is a kind of an interesting observation.
So what is unduplicated head count?
So that's an individual, so that it's not duplicated, so you don't get counted twice.
So where would be a scenario where you, I just would have assumed that with head count, why is there a duplicated head count somewhere?
You might be counted in one program, in a general studies program here, but you also, for example, you might be pre-nursing, so you get counted in two programs. That's why we always like to look at unduplicated, because it's a real, true number. Yeah, you bet. Let's go again here. Let's talk about the money, because that's an important function of what you're all doing as commissioners. It's certainly something we pay a lot of attention to. This college has had to make some significant adjustments in its operational approaches and outlooks. And we had to make budget adjustments in those very lean years, especially starting in fiscal 20. We're growing back slightly now, but I am very happy to say that we are living within our means. We are putting money back into reserves at the end of each year. We are maintaining, and we have a sustainable budget that goes from year to year that I feel very confident in coming to you as providers of tax dollars, that we are doing a good, responsible work with the tax dollars that you send us, and we'd like to say thank you that way. So let's go ahead and keep moving there. This just kind of gives you a picture of where all Oregon colleges are at. As mirrors ours kind of bottomed out in 20, it is on the way back up. This is the head count for the entire state's about 41,000. So, you know, with our 4,500, we're about 10% of the state's enrollment. Just an idea of where everybody's at. The counties that are listed in white technically don't belong to a district in that they do not provide taxation. Every county in Oregon is covered through what we call a contract out of district. So for example, us with Grant, Union, and Wallowa County, we provide services in those areas. We just don't collect tax revenue off of that. And so the commissioners there actually pay us on a contract basis for the education and training that we provide. I like to put this slide in here just because we work with everybody. From the urban schools along the I-5 to our fellow rural schools that are down in the southwest part of the state to our closest neighbors in the Dalles and in Ontario. We work very closely together, especially here in Eastern Oregon. We have a saying between Blue Mountain, Eastern Oregon University, and Treasure Valley that we're going to work together because there's simply just not enough to fight each other over. And from a public administration standpoint, it's irresponsible to climb over top of each other to scramble to duplicate services. We have to work together. Our biggest competitor is not EOU. It's not Ontario. It's not Columbia Basin in the Tri-Cities. It's the apathy for the need for education. And we're going to talk about that. But what we're really finding is that training is what is being sought. But students and families are not connecting training with education. That's the challenge that we have. So let's jump into that as we kind of look into where we're going. So there is a bit of upheaval in the federal arena, as you might imagine, and every day is kind of new and interesting for us. But I make this statement because we are in full compliance with all state and federal laws at this point. I'm not waking up every morning worrying about, is the White House going to issue an order to come and take this or that from us, because we are in compliance with the law as it is currently written. And that's how we do our work. We're going to continue to do our work, which is to serve each and every student that walks through the door. That's what we do. It's what we've been doing for 60 plus years. It's what we're going to do for the next 60 years. So we're just going to keep moving in that direction. What tomorrow may bring, tomorrow may bring. What we can do is control what we can, which is the level of dedication and service and commitment to our students. So we're going to keep doing that. Let's keep going, Matt. So what are some of the challenges that are facing us? This is not only just Blue Mountain, but higher education in general, and we'll move through those. Let's go ahead and advance. Enrollment stable. I talked about the birth there, but it's not a given. We have to continually work to go and maintain, in essence, our market. We've been primarily a transfer institution, meaning that students come and get a 2-year degree or the majority of their general education credits and then move on to a four-year institution. At one point, it was about 92% of what the college did. We're now in the high 50s to low 60s, depending on the term. Still a major part of what we do, but it's not everything. And it, quite frankly, is not enough to pay the freight. We have to find other ways to augment, to pay for our services. Speaking of paying for services, we have a sustainable budget. I'm very proud of that. It's not been easy. And Board Member Brown will tell you, having lived through it, it has not been an easy path, but we've made the right decisions and we've made the responsible decisions for our students and for all of us as taxpayers. Talked a little bit about this with training. Skill acquisition is the new economy in higher education. You know, for decades, we've been obsessed with degree and credential attainment, but the consumer, the student, is not equating that to a degree. They're looking for training. We have to approach this from a mindset that says, what skills are you looking for? What is it that you want to do? And what is your time frame? And by and large, most students will tell you, I want to get out in the workforce as quickly as I can. I don't want to sit in class any longer than I have to. We don't take that personally. We just understand this is part of how it is. That gets us into one of the other points up there, which is online and in person. The data is absolutely clear. Doesn't matter program. Students do better in person. 3 times over, they'll choose online before they choose in person. Every term when we put up registration for the next term, you put up an in-person course, it will sit there like an awkward 7th grader at a school dance, just all alone looking for a friend. Nobody comes along. And here comes the in-person, right? The online class, and they'll fill up 3 times over. It is just the nature of today's student, be they traditional age or non-traditional age. Online is where you go. You know, you were talking about your wife just finishing her degree online at her own pace, competency-based education. I was just in Nashville at our national meetings, and the competency-based education approach, they are finding that most students are doing the work between 11:15 and 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's when they can fit it in. We have to adapt. The other thing we're adapting to is the box about student needs. They're increasing. Online students actually require more support than are in person. They require more tutoring, more advising. They need help with everything from mental health to just navigating the system, because as adept as they are, TikTok and everything else, they need help navigating the systems. And part of that is on us as higher ed. We have to find more friendly systems and a way to help them navigate through. So let's keep going. So where are we headed? We talked about how much we have been a dependent transfer educational entity in the past. Well, our future really is in that left side: dual credit, workforce, community education, and customized training. And what I mean by that, dual credit, obviously, in the high school. Workforce and customized training is the training that we do, non-credit, specifically designed for our area businesses and industries. And that's why we're here. We're here really to help those businesses have a steady, skilled, trained, ready workforce, and for people to acquire a skill to help them feed themselves, quite frankly. That's where it's at. We need to be more entrepreneurial in everything we do. We have found ways in the last couple of years, you know, we're utilizing space. You know, we do not have near the same number of actual students on campus that we've had in years past. So what are we doing with the space? We're finding ways to utilize that space that's helping us to realize a small amount of revenue and to keep the spaces occupied, because we all know what happens to an empty building, the way they go downhill. So we need some help from Salem. We need help from DC, and I put Seattle in there because that's where the home for our accreditation was, which is essentially our licensure. We've got to get folks to be willing to look at different ways to acknowledge completion, acquisition, and how that relates back to funding. Everything right now is tied to a credit hour and a degree or a certificate attainment. Sometimes a success is simply one class. That class might be 3 weeks on a Saturday, and it might not have an academic credential attached to it, but rather just a completion. And I know that now I go back to my business, I've got a promotion because I have a new skill. I'm earning more. My family has a better way of life. That is absolutely a success for us, but it's a failure in terms of how the official structure works. So last thing I would say is that continuing to work to reignite a spirit that we believe in ourselves and we believe in what we're doing. Education's been under a pretty heavy cloud the last little while, but even prior to that, through the pandemic. And this erosion in confidence in higher education has been decades in the making. Some of this, there is responsibility on our part. There was an over importance, if you will, on everyone has to have a 4-year degree. That is absolutely not the case. I will tell you as a college president, I will still sit here and tell you, not everybody, quote, needs to go to college. But everybody needs training to do something. So let's find a way to connect the two. Not everybody's gonna be ready to go right out of high school. I know this kid from Montana who didn't go till he was almost 40 years old. Somehow he ended up a college president in Oregon. Go with the time, right? But we need to be ready for those students. So lastly, I'd just like to say thank you. As one of our foundational counties, Morrow County and Umatilla County, that stood up in 1962 to put the college together. 47% of our funding comes. That was a pretty good little drum riff there for a little bit. So. I would just like to say thank you. 47% of our funding comes from property taxes, not from Salem, but from Morrow County, Umatilla County, Bacon County. So we say thank you, and we will continue to work to try to be the best stewards of those dollars that we can. I'd be happy to take any questions you might have. I appreciate you sliding us in on the agenda, and we'll be happy to carry on a conversation if you'd like.
Anything else, Gus?
No, I really appreciate you coming to speak with us and for sharing, and I am very glad to see that there's growth. That's a tough pull right now, so well done. And I think if we can, man, it's distracting.
I have to tell you, it sounds like one of those guys sitting outside with on a plastic bucket with drumsticks. They've got a pretty good little rhythm going.
He's doing an online class.
Music online. This is how it's done. Yeah.
I would really love to see, I was one of the students who got dual credit through BMCC when the
Good.
program
Thank you.
was I think relatively new. And it's really an awesome thing. But I do echo that things have changed dramatically and how we need to approach offering dual credit in the first place. Is that students, if they don't, right now, students, if they don't see an immediate application for what I'm learning, they're like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah. It's a challenge to get a sophomore or a junior at Irrigon High School to say, you know, I really need to take English composition. I need to write more essays. There's not very many of those that are going to see the immediate need, but if you can tie that to an ability with whatever field you might go into, very, very quickly, one of the things that we get back from industry is, hey, their technical skills are great, but they can't communicate. You might be a diesel technician, you might be a welder, but you need to be able to write a summation of whatever the service call was, or whatever you need from your supplier, or whatever the function might be. That actually comes from developing writing skills. So that's the challenge, is to connect those two.
So whatever, well, whatever, but I would
Easy,
yeah,
because
easy.
we will ask.
But for my part, I want to continue to support what you're doing, and particularly involvement as, you know, on the local level as much as we can, because I think that's where, like you alluded, that's where the growth opportunity is.
It really is, and we see growth and potential as tumultuous as the times and the waters might be right now. We still see a good path forward, and that's a good thing for us, and it's a very good thing for our region.
So Dave, online, do you have anything you'd like to ask or?
Yeah, I was just gonna ask him one thing is, do you have any partnerships with AWS? And if you do, what are they?
Thank you, Commissioner. Yes, we do. And in fact, we have some really strong partnerships. We have 2 direct training programs direct for AWS. One is the Data Center Technician Program, where we train students on how to manage all of our data that goes into the cloud. The other is the actual logistical operation of the center itself. These are huge operations, as you're well aware, and HVAC especially. But the operation of that facility takes some really specialized skills, and so we train those as well. AWS is actually, we partnered the other way. They're renting space from us from a building in Hermiston. We've partnered with them on Think Big spaces. So we're doing a lot with AWS, and they've been very supportive of us, and we feel it's good partnerships.
Okay, thank you. Because, you know, we want to make AWS jobs as accessible to the local young people as possible. All of the workers, not just the young people. Thank you.
I agree.
All right, nothing else. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Just like to echo, comments that the other two have made.
Sure appreciate it. And if that, no indication of interest in the meeting, but we're gonna get out of your way, so. Sure.
All right.
Okay, it's understood. Thank you.
Next up on the agenda, Juvenile Department Quarterly Report. Christie.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
Steve Kenny with the Juvenile Department. You probably received of my written, but just a few highlights from this last quarter. I just want to say thanks to our Sheriff's Office. I really appreciate they provided us with some self-defense training, appropriate use of force training. So I really appreciate their willingness to provide their staff to give Samantha, my probation counselor, and I some self-defense training to make sure we stay as safe as possible when dealing with potential youth that may not be as cooperative as we want them to be. So just want to say thank you to them and their partnership. Just another few highlights. Samantha, the probation counselor, completed, we call it EPICS for short, but it's effective practices on community supervision. It's a supervision model that has been proven to be highly effective in structuring each contact we have with the youth. So instead of just meeting with the kid and say, hey, how's it going today? What's going on? It's a very structured model that goes over short-term goals, long-term goals, reviewing of case plans, working on what's the next targeted plan, whether it's mental health, substance use, education, trying to make sure that every time we meet with those kids, we have some purpose and some meat and potatoes, so to speak, in those meetings. And so she completed that. It was over a 6-month, it might be almost more like 8-month long continued training where she had to turn in tape recordings of her sessions with kids. So I appreciate also our kids willing to be recorded, because it's not always the easiest to talk about, one, how things are going on supervision, but also to be recorded and then be critiqued on some of those items that were discussed. So she's pretty happy, and I'm happy that she completed that additional training and certification. Another update, just I know I've probably spoken before regarding our juvenile crime prevention. We do that JCP in short, but I just completed our application. It was end of March, submitted that. These dollars will be used for kids for prevention services from ages 8 to 17. Presented my plan before our local public safety coordinating counselor, our LIPSIC. What was it, back in March? And they approved the endorsement, so I submitted that plan to help support Sweet Potatoes Closet in Hermiston, who serve Umatilla and Morrow youth, as well as Boardman Park and Rec. They have some good summer programs, as well as starting an after-school program for some kids, and the OSU Extension helps support some 4-H and summer programs for kids that fit that criteria. So a few of those updates in this quarter. So I would be happy to answer any other questions you guys might have. Otherwise, I feel like we always just say we're continuing to move forward, trying to help kids as best we can.
Are the referrals received this quarter? Is there a significant change in either direction compared to last quarter, or is it pretty comparable?
Usually it's pretty comparable. I actually looked at I usually try to give you how many youth referred, so you can see not necessarily the actual charges specifically, but we actually were about the exact same as we were last quarter. So these were pretty consistent so far. I try to report if there's something crazy within that, maybe data like, the type of charges, but this has been pretty consistent what we've seen throughout the last few quarters.
Dave, anything from you?
He said he'd raise his hand if he had comments a little bit ago, so.
Okay. All right.
Great.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Sheriff's Office report. Brian.
Morning, Commissioners.
Morning, good morning.
Report's should be a little short today. Not much to report. Everything's kind of maintaining, in each of our divisions. Our work crew supervisor did graduate the academy last Friday, which that's great, and then we have 2 deputies graduating this Friday, so hopefully in 3 months, we'll see them out on the road and solo. Marine season is kicked off, so our Marine deputy is out and about. He does have to go to the Marine Academy, but it's only 2 weeks and that's coming up. But we'll have our lieutenant that'll be able to fill in while he's gone. And then we are gearing up for the OHV park to be opening, the 1st of May, Mother's Day weekend. And everything else is just kind of, we're maintaining and, moving forward, and things are looking good, but not much has changed at this moment. So, short of questions, which I always encourage, that's about all I got today.
Yes.
Sorry, I don't have any questions.
That's good too, though. I thank you.
All right, thank you, Brian. Planning Department, let's update Tamara.
Risk management was up next.
Oh, we moved it, rescheduled.
Oh, sorry. Okay, good morning. For the record, Tamara Mabbott. Springtime, the front page, this month, we feature a nice, picture that Stephen took with his drone of the blades of the Wheat Ridge East laydown yard area. That project is, well underway, and actually, I think we might be wrapping up, this spring sometime. This month, we spent some time looking at the Eastern Oregon Energy Solar Rule Committee. I included a copy of the letter that I put together and the information Stephen put together to show the volume and scale of solar projects in the county. The Land Conservation and Development Commission meeting is June 26th to 27th. I think the formal record closed April 11th, or will close April 11th, but I think there's still a way to get comments to staff so they have additional background information. We're leading the pack in the state on solar energy projects, at least on the books, but not actually constructed. But once Pine Gate starts and they're complete, I think we'll bump up to the lead. I happened to drive through Gillum County with some friends a couple weekends ago, and they have miles and miles and miles of solar project and just on some flat ground. So it's working well for them there. I just included in here that over the past number of years, prior to my returning 5 years ago, Morrow County's permitted 2,400 acres or 300 megawatts of solar. And the state, who has jurisdiction to permit the larger projects, has permitted about 28,000 projects, 28,000 acres worth of projects. So we have a total of around 30,000. And I think I mentioned last month in the newsletter and orally that I've had at least one informal call related to another committee I'm sitting on, says, oh yeah, I think we're gonna be dropping a 12 to 13,000 acre application before the end of the year, which is a little bit different because normally these developers come in and they'll talk to me or Stephen or one of the other planners, and they're doing their reconnaissance work, unlike the PGE application that fell out from the sky. So they're very, all these developers have different strategies and approaches, and they both work. Just some of them are more involved at the upfront level. I also am sitting, when time allows, on 2 different work groups: Renewable Northwest Advisory Group, it's an advocacy group, and the Oregon Department of Energy Developing Clean Energy, Electricity Generation and Transmission Policy Working Group. That's a mouthful. Myself and another person did a presentation on retirement standards. And I was asked to do that and said, I am not an expert on retirement standards, except it's a thing. And nobody knows what solar retirement will look like because none of them have been retired yet. Some of them have been damaged and replaced, et cetera. Anyway, so just participated in that dialogue. There's no silver bullet, no real fix for that, but it's something to stay mindful of. So if in the future the county wants to look at updating solar siting rules, I have a little bit of background in that as well. Clint Shoemake is really leading as the project manager, the Columbia River Heritage Trail update. We included the flyer in there with the survey, the online survey remains open till May 1st. So if you use the trail or people live particularly in the Irrigon and Boardman area, but really all county, I've shared it with some hiking friends to say, hey, take this survey. We want to see what people, even outside the county, what features you may like for the Heritage Trail, because it's a wonderful asset for the north part of the county, but it's also a great tourism draw for people. I hike with some people who are very experienced hikers, hike all over the Pacific Northwest. They didn't know we had a trail, so spreading the word about that. On page 3, there's a graphic there. It seems a little bit boring, but because it's planner stuff, right? In December, LCDC, Land Conservation Development, adopted new administrative rules to update all the lands zoned exclusive farm use protected under ORS 215. So we will be coming to you at some point with another code update. I'm not super eager to start that, but we haven't done that yet because these are automatically applied. They're mandatory. So we're implementing them. They're just not in our code. And that's not ideal from my perspective, because when somebody pulls up our code, they should see everything that's there. The one that we've used so far is, where is it here? Oh, we don't have cranberry operations, so that one really won't apply. I just copied the graphic. The template test. So if you're in a forest zone, the process for evaluating whether or not you'd qualify for what we call a template dwelling. It's a way to kind of grandfather in some of those smaller lots. We've had to look at that. And then also the, where's the farm zone? Oh, some of the replacement dwelling requirements, and just not seeing it here. I'm trying to read it too close. The evaluation that we have to do when we're looking at the creation of a non-farm dwelling parcels and the impacts test analysis. And we've already implemented that. Another piece that doesn't sound super exciting, but it means a lot to us, it makes us more efficient and user-friendly, hopefully, is Clint Shoemake has updated a lot of our application and reference materials on our website. He comes to us with a lot of attention to detail, and is very organized, and some web design experience. So the forms on our website are fillable forms. So people like me who have terrible penmanship, those are really nice and really handy. He also is becoming our de facto internal editor. We have a lot of documents right now. Most of those larger ones are on my plate, and I don't like to present documents that have errors in them. So we are now, as of Monday last week, Clint is becoming our editor when we have to have formal documents such as those that are in front of you this afternoon. Caitlin has her code compliance work, her new cases, and happy to say she had 5 of them that were closed or resolved. That's always what we're seeking, in the friendliest of way. That's always a win. We have to try to celebrate those when we have them. Otherwise, it could be a less than rewarding position to be in. Just a note here about where we are with implementing the Water Advisory Committee, the 4 initiatives that the board adopted. A note about the Lub Guama meeting. Commissioner Peterson and I attended that meeting in March. I also was invited. I'm not exactly sure why I agreed to it, but it's really valuable for the farmers as part of the Oregon's nitrate reduction plan. For better or for worse, those state agencies have really stepped up their involvement. And when I say, it's primarily a very positive thing. But if you're a farmer and Department of Ag is looking at creating new rules that will increase reporting requirements that your farms never had previously, that's a pretty daunting thing. So my counterpart in Umatilla County, Bob Walder, and I are both sitting on that. Hopefully that's just 4 meetings over the course of the year. I'm not the technical person, but I can bring to the table the land use piece, and in no way, shape, or form would, in my opinion, it be okay that a planning office has anything to do with regulating farms. So that's not at all my intent. It's just to have a voice to say, we protect farmland in Oregon so farmers can farm. And that's mainly the message there, unless you tell me otherwise. So our GIS analyst, Stephen, has been working hard on this Lubquama story map. You've seen other story maps he's done. I'll have him come in a month or two when it's final. He's really wanting it to be finalized because it's modeled after a story map. It was created in the state of Washington for the, I just drew a blank, the Black Rock management area. It's another groundwater management area. And it will be a place for folks to go to learn everything about the Guama. So you don't have to go to a local county or Department of Environmental Quality or Department of Ag or Oregon Water Resources Department. Stephen, when we agreed to take it on, it seemed like a scalable project, and it's kind of grown. And then we'll hand it over to DEQ to put onto their website. It's valuable for us because, again, we answer a lot of questions about the Lubquama, and Stephen has that skill set. I'll just go right through here. Lots of other things happening with water. I think Matt's gonna give his report about our latest with the West Glen area, so I don't need to repeat that. And we've got 2 transportation projects. Commissioner Windholt sits on our Tower Road Interchange Area Management Plan. We had a call last week, and they had all of the different design scenarios, and they're gonna narrow it down to 3 based on input from the TAC and the PAC meetings a couple of weeks ago. That's really driven by ODOT, but we'll have to also adopt it. So ODOT's obviously trying to minimize their investment, but preserve the integrity and the functionality of that intersection. And, but it will require, a local adoption, and it will also address access. So we're really trying to preserve the capacity of that piece of Tower Road. Eric Imes is obviously also involved in that part. And that's all I have. I did include a flyer, which we posted up front because ODOT will begin some work on the interchange bridge work over I-84. So just for, it's going to bid in December. We're just trying to get the word out for ODOT because it'll have a big effect on people who use Tower Road. Really, really big effect. So just included that as a FYI. Happy to answer any questions.
Anything else?
I don't have anything. Thank you, Tim.
Yeah, thanks. Sorry it was so long.
It's okay. You do a
Thank
lot,
you.
so.
Okay.
Okay, next, accounts payable monthly report. Kevin, is that just your submitted written?
Unless you have questions.
Any questions, Kevin?
I assume there isn't anything that stands out to you.
No, I
You would have said it. Yeah. Okay. Then no, I don't have any
All right.
questions.
Thank you. County administrator report, Matt.
Yes, submitted a written report on activities going on. If I'd just like to spotlight the one item with West Glen. We did submit a capital improvement infrastructure request to the state in the amount of $2.8 million request from the state. That would be with a $500,000 match from the CWC funds. Conceivably, that could put the infrastructure in for West Glen and allow whether it's connecting to Boardman or doing a community water system there. And so with the pressure and the attention that West Glen's got, I think we're in a good, in fact, we were invited to apply for it. We will be tracking that. I've got to get the bill number of what that will go for. And under direction of the chair, kind of told Tamara and I to be down there when it's presented to provide supporting testimony on that. If, I mean, the big thing is there was a lot of big numbers thrown out for West Glen up in the $20 million range. And realistically, as we lined it out, put it and even put some inflationary considerations because the monies wouldn't be available for 2 years. A $3.3 million project to help provide it is a great solution. We're bringing that together, and we'll be doing community outreach in June to bring everyone in that community together to talk about the options and just see what the blockades are. One of the nice things is if we can get the infrastructure paid for, it's more or less your water use rate and cost for future repairs and maintenance. And if we aren't having to use CDBG grants, and that frees us up on some options on how to form it and work with Boardman if that's the direction we're gonna go. So as we get those options, we'll look forward to bringing those before the BOC for consideration of that. So that was a fun thing, a quick thing. It's in, and we'll keep you updated as we go to the Capitol for that. A couple things that weren't on the written report. You might have heard, this is not directly county related, but county impactful. Morrow County Health District has secured an interim CEO. That is Dennis Burke, who was the former CEO for Good Shepherd for about 30 years. So a good amount of experience, and he's coming out of retirement to help out there. So I'll be reaching out to him and just seeing if there's anything we can assist on during this time of transition. Also, we for the courthouse bond issue, they are having a bond hearing on that Friday morning in Salem at 8 o'clock. I'll be there for County College, and I plan to skip out on the hospital tour, the mental health hospital tour, to go to testify. I don't know which is worse, going to the legislature or mental health hospital. So, but looking forward to going and testifying on that. And as you see, we've got a model. We'll talk about that shortly. Just a reminder as well, we usually 5 Wednesday months, you get a few weeks off. We're filling those up. Just a reminder that we're starting our strategic plan process next Wednesday. For you, it'll start, I believe, 1:30, and that will be with the Board of Commissioners and the Strategic Plan Advisory Committee. And then we will be planning on having a special session on April 30th. There'll be a minor business item with the CAFA grant for the appraisers, the assessor's office, and then we'll be having a presentation from the state valuation and properties items coordinated through our assessor, Mike Gorman. So just a reminder to keep those on those. I'll shoot out Outlook invites just so you make sure you have those blocked off. Any questions on the written report or anything else that?
I don't think so.
Chair Sykes has a question.
Unmuted, Dave.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, it isn't really a question, but I couldn't figure out how to raise my hand, so I'm kind of a novice on this end of it. So it was on Tamara's report. I'd just like to add something. I don't think she gave enough shout out to all the people who are involved with the Pine Gate mitigation plan. LCDC is adopting that kind of as a template, and I think everyone that was involved with that in Morrow County should get kind of a shout out. It shows we're out there thinking about it, and I'm confident we will stay there. So that's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Okay, moving on, the consent agenda. Is there anything anybody'd like to pull out? If there's nothing to be pulled out there, the consent agenda will be approved as presented.
Motion to approve
I need to
consent agenda.
Yeah, we still need to move to approve it.
Okay.
Yeah, wait on that, sorry.
Oh, you're the chair, so I move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second. Yeah, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Business items, courthouse project update.
All right, Chair, we have our design team here. We'll bring them up and have them pull an extra chair up or two. We have, Kelly and Austin are from DLR Group. Lori's sitting in the back. Then we've got Patrick, he's with Belton. And I'm glad, I thought there was another flash flood of 1903. We'll get you some glue before you leave today. And Patrick's with Belton, our construction manager, general contractor. And then we have Doug, you know his face, he's been on it longest. Alliance is our project manager. Just as we're nearing that point to finalize schematic design, we're reconciling estimates, and we're knee deep in the value engineering form. This project has been ongoing, and as we show in this presentation, we've got some ongoing challenges that we're continuing to work on, but we felt like this is a point to bring it to the BOC, let you know what the progress is, and as we continue to work and ask for any input from the three of you as we get ready. So at this point, I'll turn it over to the design team. I'm not sure who's going to lead.
Can you
Kelly?
share the presentation?
I sure can. Just 1 second.
Yeah, made out, you need a long stick.
Okay. Let's do this. We got the model and
Well, I guess I would add that obviously we're set up to come back to you guys multiple times. This is a long process with built-in, I guess, stops for us to share, gather more information and proceed accordingly.
okay.
You can go to the next slide.
I was gonna figure.
And probably the next. So we did do a presentation at the end of pre-design, which was the phase before schematic design. And so starting off schematic design, we already had the following things worked out. We had our numeric program, which is a list of all the square footage needs for all the different spaces of the building. We had our design goals set, which are essentially around things like longevity and durability. We had an initial cost estimate, a pre-design cost estimate, which is strictly based on just the square footages that they know of, no design to estimate with. And then we had set a project budget, a total budget of hard and soft costs totaling 35 million. And then we had a project location, which technically we had an early SD. We had our current location in Hefner. A little bit about big things that happened during the schematic design process. This is a CMGC contract, so we bring the general contractor on early to also be a general or a manager, construction
Provide
manager.
design input.
Yeah.
Design, construction input, constructability.
Yep, it's a common thing in projects these days to do it CMGC method. So we welcomed Boughton Construction to our team. And
Can you just give a little background really quick on Boughton?
Yeah, we, larger general contractor in the Northwest. We have an office in Spokane as well as in Richland. This project we manage out of our Richland office. Long history going back into the mid-1900s. Originally kind of started in healthcare, and we've kind of transitioned into doing more public and civic work as well. So I'm excited to be part of this.
Project had 9 general contractors apply to be the contractor, CMGC for this. And so through a process of scoring and working it through, obviously Boughton rose to the top and was picked by the team and approved by you guys to fill this role.
a lot of sincere interest in the project.
Yeah. It's good.
DLR Group did the Jefferson County Courthouse 8 years ago, 8 or 9 years ago. And so it's close enough that we did a tour with various people on the project team, stakeholders and user groups all got to go tour the courthouse. And since not everyone here was on the tour, I have a few extra photos that we can just see some highlights of what we saw on the tour. One of their courtrooms and all of the natural daylight that comes into the courtroom and how the furniture and spaces all can lay out in different configurations. The technology in the courtrooms, the finishes, the acoustics were all things we were able to note on the tour. Security features, how different things functioned there, how the public interface spaces work, and then the back of house staff interfaces with the public and different overlaps. Circulation through a courthouse is always really tricky to figure out because there's not just public and private, there's also the in custody people that have their own path through. So it's great to be able to walk through that and see in person how those are kept separate. And the DA space was there too, so we walked through that. So that's the tour.
On that tour, we had our design team, Justin and myself were able to attend on that as well, so.
And then we did the conditional use process with the city of Hefner and asked for 3 variances to their code, and we had a hearing for that, and everything got approved. So we're able to build in that particular residential zone for this type of building. We have a variance for our parking area, so we don't have to strictly follow the landscape requirements, which might make it more difficult to have flex parking during rodeo and other events with larger vehicles. And the building height too, being a larger building, we have confirmed that our building height can be a little bit higher. And then just the expiration of approvals was quite short, and larger projects have longer duration, so we got an extension on that. And then most importantly, it's called schematic design because we're doing schematic design plans. So we're working with the user groups and trying to get the floor plans figured out. So this is just showing some of our process, the different groups in the building we've met with individually. So, you know, the DA people we've met with and the circuit court people and justice court group, and then just the building users overall. We've met with them on different occasions and just talked through what can go where and what adjacencies are needed. Doing some of our major concepts.
Yeah.
Maybe Austin can talk about that.
I can talk about this. This is the site plan, and we'll talk about, I guess, in the next couple slides of how the building is oriented, but I guess within the site. But the site plan is just like this. It's kind of separated into 2 parking areas. A public area that's accessed from that southern bridge over Hinton Creek. Yep, and then it kind of proceeds, and that bridge aligns kind of directly to the center of the building. And so you'll see in the front part of that parking, or the most southern part of the parking, there's some area for rodeo trailers to park. It's not a ton, but it's some. And that will be grass for the most part of the year until rodeo comes along, and then they'll mow that whole area for trailers to park. And so, yeah, we've aligned the building to face the south, kind of the public entry. So there's sort of a processional entry as you kind of go through the site. And then to the left side, we'll see the fire lane kind of, I don't know, snakes around through the public parking and then up through the staff parking. And then that'll also be access for Sallyport, although drop off people in custody. And so that's kind of how we've oriented the building. And so it's south facing, allowing for daylight and things to enter more of the public spaces and office spaces. And then maybe next slide. Yeah.
Just to show.
Zoomed in.
And maybe it's a good time, if you're able to see the model, to see how the topography on the
Yeah.
site works.
Yeah, so stand, I guess. Each contour, this is a 1/16th scale model, but each contour represents 2 feet drop. And so it doesn't necessarily look super steep, but it is. And so we're able to kind of use the the slope to our advantage and have the sally port and the staff parking on the north side of the building, which eliminates a holding elevator, which elevators are super expensive. So this is kind of our thought or our concept, and how to kind of manage some of the really complex circulation systems that we have in this building.
I think the next slide might be a section cut through the site, so you could see how at the second floor on the north is where the Sally Port and staff enter the building, and then the first floor on the south is where the public enters the building.
Yeah. Kind of a roof plan, and so the left bar, I guess, of this, the left gable mass is where the courtroom is located on the second floor. We'll get into that. And then you see the sally port on the very far left. Staff access is through the middle portion on the north area there where Matt's cursor is. And then some of the, I guess the public entrance is on the very south, entering through the left mass there. Yeah, and then I think for this image, we wanted to show that we're looking at standing seam and kind of a metal roof for this, and then the middle portion will be more flat and less noticeable.
And a lot of skylights.
So this is the design concept here. I'll try to kind of explain this through massing. So like I said, we separated the two. First step in the far top left corner just kind of iterates or illustrates that there's the secure side and there's the public side of this mass. And so just dropping a big floor plate kind of into the ground and having that idea that the sally port's on the second floor. We then separated the building into two programs, one, the court, and then the support spaces, allowing for sort of this this north-south access that goes through the site. It's kind of the public access that goes through the building. And so you have this kind of experience of walking through the building between two big masses. And then the third image in the top right corner is sort of the bridge that connects the two. And what we mean by bridge is though there's program in there, but it's also sort of where the main stair might be located. And so similar to the historic courthouse in Portland, there might be a stair sort of in the center of the mass with a large glazing in front of it where, you walk into the building and see the grand stair similar to the old courthouse. And so, and then when you get up to the stair, you can look back onto the site and it's all kind of in front of you and again aligns with the entry to the site. So it's kind of nice that way. And then the fourth diagram there is just kind of lifting the gables up. And there's reason that we kind of separated these buildings into two masses and kind of put gable roofs on them is to kind of lower down the scale to more of a residential scale and have them fit within the residential context. So they're traditional, more familiar forms, still with sort of an institutional civic feel to it, but more aligned to context, surrounding context.
This diagram just helps to illustrate the secure perimeter within the building. There's areas that the public has access to beyond just the lobby. So helping to show with the dashed pink line where the public can go in the building and where they can't go. So we can try to go. This is as much as we could see with you don't have to read the words on this. The green represents the DA space on level 1. The blue is the justice court space. The gray is building support type spaces like mechanical room, storage. The light yellow is the public lobby spaces and public circulation restroom spaces and building entry. The orange is the court security space, the sheriff's space. And then the brown beige is the public defender's space. So These are located here. You can kind of see the symmetry and the nod to the original courthouse here with how the grand stairs in the middle and it's flanked by these two masses. And so the court building to the left, you saw the justice court on level 1 stacked below the circuit court on level 2. So there's the big courtroom right in the middle there, surrounded by all of the different paths of circulation I mentioned earlier that have their own unique way that they need to get to the courtroom. The public gets to the courtroom from that south entry. People in custody get to the courtroom from the orange sheriff areas, which are holding cells and Sally Port. The judge and clerks get to the courtroom from the northeast access point, and then the jurors also have their own entry into the courtroom on the east there. So having all of those people enter the courtroom from their own special doors quite tricky when you're also giving them spaces in the building too that they need to get access to from another side. And then court support on the right for the second floor are the clerk's spaces and the jury assembly as well up there. And
Also want to point out that most of the public space, or actually all of it, is really south facing towards the community, because it's kind of up against, you know, the urban growth boundary, or I guess the city limits. And so as you come up the stair, and then either you go left or right to the court windows, or you're waiting for the courtroom itself, you're sort of sitting in areas or waiting areas that are faced towards the community. And then over in the jury assembly area, you're faced to the south also towards the community, or you're faced towards the fairgrounds and kind of farmland, rolling hills kind of area. So there's views over there as well.
just some initial elevation studies. We're just starting to look at this. A lot of it's just starting by asking where windows go based on where the rooms that need windows are in the building. So this is just kind of showing our first iteration at glass. So similar to the pre-design phase, we did a cost estimate again for the schematic design phase. The difference here is that we did two cost estimates. Actually, that's on the next slide, sorry. So the total project budget was $35 million. And right now we're just using the industry standard of 30% to estimate soft costs. So 30% of 35 million is 10.5 million for soft costs. The soft costs will be refined as the project goes on. It represents some unknown numbers still and some known numbers still. So there's just a sampling of what soft costs include. So the furniture, some fixtures and equipment, the design engineering and management fees, pre-construction services, the environmental and geotechnical studies which have been completed, any off-site fees, insurance, legal fees, getting the permits. During construction, there'll be a lot of inspections and testing, and then something we call project contingency, which we might get into a little bit more in this discussion if it's relevant. So that's soft cost. The next slide is hard cost, and I'll let, I think Patrick can speak to that.
Yeah, so as Kelly mentioned, so the remaining 70% that equates to 24.5 million out of the 35 million. So the DLR and Alliance had the independent cost estimator who they've had on previously doing estimates. They also did an estimate off these SD documents simultaneously as we did. We've met a couple of times with them. We are reconciled on a scope standpoint. Our numbers are 6 or 7% different overall, but in general, we feel aligned on the scope. So just a different way of maybe how we looked at it versus what they're using for unit costs versus us. We also went out to some trade partners we use commonly and got some budgets in that way as well. So there could be, our numbers aren't going to be exact, I guess is why I'll start by that. And you'll see on the next slide the difference between our numbers. From an estimating standpoint, we're at SD, so we're early on. So both us as well as the other estimator have included, we've aligned on these same contingency percentages. As design progresses and we get towards construction, that the design contingency would drive down to 0, but we have to allocate for design and estimating contingency between now and then for changes or errors between design and the estimate between now and construction. As a CMGC, we always carry a contract contingency. We'll try to get that as aggressive as possible. And then kind of talked about this a few times this meeting already, but just there's some changes in the world regarding tariffs and escalation. So the 6.5% essentially accounts for 1% per month until we would plan to go out to bid on this project, which would be in a November timeframe. That's approximately 6 to 7 months out. So we haven't seen a lot yet except for steel and aluminum, but who knows what the next 6, 7 months will bring. So that's our best guess at that. And then we just kind of want to highlight a couple of things, just if you want to go back real quick, is just we do anticipate there is a premium from a labor standpoint going to Hefner out of Boardman. So that is accounted for in this estimate. And then also, in addition to that, just you can kind of see from the topography on that site is there's some inherent cost challenges with that site and putting a building on it just relating to the grades. So in addition to just a labor increase, we're anticipating $1 million plus. That's included in our estimate related to, we're anticipating we're gonna have to chip basalt out to put in that building there based off the preliminary geotech reports. That building is gonna have retaining walls to retain that whole backside of the soil there. We may need a fire pump as well as just longer utility runs. And so just some unique things at this site. Some of those might be applicable in Boardman, but just kind of pointing out that there is some cost impacts that we're seeing based off that information between the two sites. So those have been accounted for in our estimate though. So as I mentioned, here's the two different estimates. So this is construction cost only. Just under 31 million is the other estimator. Ours, we put in at 28,350. And what you're seeing on the bottom, and you'll see on these additional slides behind here, is the delta you're seeing is on the left-hand side would be the delta based off Boughton's estimate. The right-hand number would be the delta off of the third-party cost estimators budget or estimate to the budget. Since we've submitted this, we've been working together to try to find some higher dollar value items. And so what you'll see in these slides here is this would be just kind of as a team met, common sense or obvious changes we should make is based off the overall dollar value to try to get the cost down. And so there's 3 things listed here in the drawings. The whole upper parking lot was shown as concrete. Changing that to asphalt saved costs, making some minor modifications, some interior finishes. And then DLR was able to kind of remove a niche in the bottom, in the basement for some back of house space to try to reduce square footage. And so that's been accounted for. And so just those alone, now we've shrunken from like 3.8 being over to 2.5 to 5.1 being over. Some other areas that have been identified that we need more time as a team to evaluate to see which of these are possible, which aren't, but we've assigned a dollar value to each of these. If all of these were accepted, you could see the revised value on the bottom. Obviously, there'll probably be some that are accepted on here, some that can't be, but we're also hopeful we'll be able to find more between now and then as well. So I don't think I want to go through each of those items unless anyone has any questions on any specific item that's related there, but kind of holistically just looking through to see where we think we can change things to help be more economical. And then from a larger perspective, which I imagine this will be a topic of conversation, is just there's a couple other options that were discussed about removing the Justice Court suite completely. So that's about 2,800 square feet. And so if we removed it completely from the building footprint, be a reduction around $2.5 million. If we build it but shell the space, so that way it could be built out at a future date, but we built the basement walls, since you build a core and shell space for that, we could save $1 million. And then at a later date, if there was more funding available, that space could get built out. So just trying to provide a wide range of options. And if either of those were taken, we would see a path back to our budget and even being under if it was completely removed, so.
Okay, so, my first question is, I'm really concerned about, if, let's say, all right, you know, let's say we bite the bullet and we'll just take a couple of things off and we'll probably be over budget. We're still so early in this process, and given the nature of the national environment, if, let's say, we ended up with something that was closer to 40 million, and then tariffs, trade wars, whatever, bump costs up another 10%, then we're looking at 44 million. And we went from where we had a meeting where 50 million was something that this board considered to be an unacceptably high number to 35 million, and then all of a sudden we're at 44. That's and I recognize none of us in this room can control that national level. That's beyond us. But how can we move forward with this in a way that makes us feel at least somewhat confident that we're not going to just skyrocket this number? Or can we just say, look, the number is going to skyrocket and we need to plan for it appropriately? I guess.
I mean, we've allocated 6.5%
Yeah.
for that, obviously, so I mean, that's a pretty significant dollar value. I would say
Those are in there.
that's in that estimate already, as well as the design estimate. You can see, you know, that's a higher percentage. I think it's appropriate at this level, but in general, I would say it's conservative, but appropriate. So, you know, there is a risk, I guess, but we're trying to mitigate that risk best as possible. But I mean, we would be doing more estimates as we're progressing as well. So it's not like that'd be at the final stage where you'd find that out.
Because this is early days, if you will, obviously there is more contingency in these budgets. These guys are nervous to present numbers and stuff without having that contingency. So as you go from SD to DD and then finally CD, it typically comes down in cost. That's the normal procedure. I've been a part of over 40 projects, and I've never been a part of one yet that SD wasn't the highest number. I mean, that's where you start to refine. We certainly share your concerns. You guys were very clear at the last meeting where we presented some costs. We realized there was some shock factor there and gave us marching orders. So we've been working really hard to hold to that and obviously present options that either get us to that number or even below it right now. That may not be what you or we would like to do, but we certainly understood there's a number. We're going to stay within that. The other thing I would say is that certainly when we get to final documents and gather the numbers, if it's over, you know, these guys don't want to hear that. I mean, you guys could opt to say, no, I'm not going to build. I mean, if what you're suggesting unfortunately came to pass and it was 44, not 38 or not something that you could work with or get around, then that would be an option.
So
You're not locked in. You don't,
Yeah.
you know.
in your experience, what is a safe, you know, percentage of SD comes down? You know, what would be
Well, that's that's a really hard question because every project's different. And depending on the overall value, the type of building it is, I mean, it's just, and as you saw on that list, there's some unknowns here for us.
Absolutely.
We, as a team, believe we've discussed them and have put in appropriate contingency. These guys are gonna have to live with this number at some point in time, right? And so they've studied it pretty hard and they're looking at us, you know, in the eye, saying, yeah, we think this can happen, we can get there. And so we're still running confident. However, we've certainly bumped up beyond the 35 million that you set for a project limit. And so it would be, you know, remiss of us to not let you know at this early stage, we're still over. You know, we're still working on this, and to get there, we might have to make some cuts to the program. So if Justice Court is out, then, you know, we'll start redesigning and take it out and we have less square footage and stay within that number. If it's a desire to do something different, then you guys would have to tell us that. But we're certainly not advocating to go over 35 million at this stage. We're, you know,
I appreciate that.
And just from our, from my view, the first two sheets that we saw on this, on the path to the target budget, are all just design items and that. This third one with the justice court, I did reach out to Judge Dale and just say, hey, just so it doesn't surprise you, this will be a topic. I mean, this comes down to operational, and I figure that change can't be made without having you at least apprised of it, and whether you want to allow me to be able to pull that trigger in the future, or if you want us to come back to it, to you and review that. If that were to be the case, we would still have him operate justice court out of the historic courthouse, and just have the circuit court and the DA and more or less the state items over in the new building. So,
I just want to let you know,
he's
from
here.
the justice court point of view, I am fine with staying in the historic courthouse. For me, it's still then is a courthouse. If you still have the court in there, so this makes the most sense. I think $2.5 million for the justice court is a tremendous expense when we have what works adequately, especially if everybody else moves out, we can adjust some things for the justice court to still function in our historic court.
Okay. So Dave, you have anything you wanna ask or add?
Yeah, oops. Excuse me. Yeah, I've always advocated for option one, and I'll stick with that.
which option was that?
Option one, remove the justice court from the project. That was my original thought when we originally got the sticker shock at the sticker shock meeting, I guess you want to call it that. And so I'm with one, remove the justice court from the project.
Matt, can I speak to that quickly? So at this stage, because it is early days, it is the team's feeling, telling that we'd at minimum like to take a shot at leaving that space in. And so option two leaves that potential. We could work towards shelling it as an option, but if numbers go well, if there are no more tariffs, if some costs come down, we could actually still leaves time for us to put it back in, keep it there. Don't have to, if it's easier just right now to rip off the Band-Aid and do that.
One thing we haven't really talked about is if there ever wanted to be an addition on this building or an expansion, the site doesn't really lend itself to that. So shelling out that space underneath would be the only place in the future to expand for anyone, whether it's justice court or something else.
I guess my other statement would be, how do you reconcile that with the justices, what he just said? The justice of the peace.
About the desire to stay in the historic courthouse?
Correct.
So what we do is, if we wanted to maintain the square footage, shell that space out, that could be reserved for justice court or future expansion of other items, or even, a nice cold storage area for a bunch of files that we have sitting in the trailers of Public Works, those kind of options. So it would give us square footage and space to expand, not necessarily saying we're holding it for justice court, though it could be. What I would like to do is letting the BOC know that that's an option. If I can kind of give direction to the design team to continue to narrow that down and more or less authorize me to kind of make calls to and come back to you if that's necessary.
So Matt, can we go to the next slide? Because we want to talk about schedule first, and then I think.
I don't, well, this slide too, we left out, if we wanted to look at more ways to reduce the budget in DD, these are some things we would look at as just further reductions to the overall. The iterative nature of this design process lets us find square footage efficiencies every time we go back through it. The
So-
floor,
I was gonna say, so if, even if we did take out Justice Court, we have to shift things around where it's currently located in that plan, to fit other things, like maybe more back of house service areas actually get fit there or something.
the floor to floor height of the building. Once we work closer with our mechanical engineers, sometimes that can come down and that can, like a foot or two, and that can have a big impact on cost. And that's something that we wouldn't be able to know until we look more at it. And then just the scope, working with our civil engineer, yes, who's not here today to speak to that, but potentially cost reductions in paving and playing areas. Now we can go to the schedule slide. Oh, shoot. Oh yeah, this is the schedule slide. So we'll probably come back to you at a similar, maybe end of July. Yeah, mid to end of July, and that will be the end of the phase. So we could also have this conversation then, and we'll have a whole new cost estimate then. At that point, it'll be just about cost estimate. We won't be using the independent cost estimator and doing reconciling at that point. And then that would kick off our construction document phase. That's where we draw the nitty-gritty details of everything in the building. That takes a few months. So when that's drawn, there's real biddable documents for people to put the most real numbers to. So our construction documents would be done mid-November. Kicks off the bidding phase where everyone's submitting their bids and about using those real numbers that are more guaranteed. I want to speak to the GMP.
Yeah, we would have lump sum numbers. We'd be working to make sure we filled all the gaps and putting together a final GMP targeting if those design timelines stay the same. The end of the year, beginning of January, and trying to break ground shortly thereafter. So
Can you tell us what the acronym for GMP is?
guaranteed maximum price. So within that, we'll still have some contingencies like contractor contingency. We'll see what the tariff escalation kind of just looks like at that time, right? But the goal at that point would be to have a very minimal, if any, design and estimating contingency, because a lot of that risk has been expelled by that point, so.
Well, I think for my part, I would like to see you continue with planning for that shell piece. And if we are at a point where awesome, we can build it out and maintain the budget, then great. And then if that's not where we're at and we're like, all right, we're just gonna have the shell and then maybe revisit this at some other point. I think that's what I would like to see us move forward as. What are your thoughts, Jeff?
Well, I guess I'm gonna go a little bit different direction
Okay.
to start with. Is, you know, when I look at the model, it feels like we're building 3 separate buildings instead of building one building. So, you know, my first thought is we have a different building design. Is our cost of construction less? Cause, you know, you'd have only one roof for, you know, then I look at it and I see a bunch of water draining into a flat roof area and I just, this is a layperson looking at this. Obviously, I'm not a contractor or designer or anything. These are things that just pop into my mind that I have questions yet.
I think it's more, the cost comes from how many corners you have more than how many roofs with the span that we need to cross. It's kind of the same amount, like Austin, if you took those 2 masses and just lined them up in one long row, it's kind of the same amount of trusses either way, whether you put them side by side or in one long row. So I think the building design, we've been working with a structural engineer and it's pretty basic. And so basic translates to
Yeah,
cost.
like, she said, a lot of it comes from the structure itself, and so it's a really simple building. It is separated into 3 parts, but again, that was, the idea behind that is just to kind of minimize the aesthetic look of it, so that it feels more, part of the residential context.
It's also based on efficient structural spans
Right.
that need to happen.
So then I'll move on to the circuit court or the justice court part of it. You know, I guess my thought would be is let's get rid of the space. I mean, we've heard from the justice of the peace, he's fine being the old courthouse, you know, and then square foot, you reduce square footage, you reduce the cost of the building. I mean, everything costs so much per square foot. 2,500 square feet fewer is that many dollars less. Then that's 2,500 square feet less that we have to condition and maintain through HVAC and operational costs, so. That's my take on it.
Is there a cost to having the justice court in the historic, having the court separated in terms of security and other operational issues that we're not taking into account when we're saying that?
So that is one of the issues that the sheriff expressed when we were first looking at the annex up in Boardman about just the logistics of staffing 3 different areas with court security. In this case, that would be the issue. And while currently there's a kind of handshake agreement saying we won't overlap, being in 2 different facilities, they might suddenly hold court on the same day that justice court is having it. And so that might be an operational challenge that we'd have to staff additionally. I will say an interesting thing about the Jefferson Courthouse, they didn't have security, and I have no idea how the state lets them run without security. They didn't have any metal detectors or anything at their front office. I'm not advocating for that because I believe the security is necessary, but it was very strange that that was possible. So, that is one of the operational challenges. We were looking to maximize space up there, possibly move the BOC there. With some creative design, we could create a meeting room that could house justice court processes as well as BOC processes. And so, you know, we just have to juggle and coordinate the 2. Scheduling between 2 county entities is a lot easier than scheduling between a state and a county entity. State just trumps. And so, it does minimize how much space we gain for building the circuit court, but it's something that's workable as we go through. But the operational cost would be specifically, I believe, the courtroom security.
There would be additional costs for making the historic courthouse work for whatever we want to do. I'm just saying there's
and-
more cost to it than.
And we'd be looking to do that with that open space anyway in the future. We haven't really talked about that, but I wanted to get this project off and going before we start looking at the next one.
Dave, do you have anything you'd like to add?
No, I pretty much said what I wanted to. Thank you.
I was gonna add, I think we've talked about Justin Nelson, Morrow County District Attorney, really on my hats right now. And I had a chance to look at the map and we've talked about the cost. The only thing, and I know we're looking at the justice court, the county space, but this cost, when I looked at the map, one thing that just stood out to me, I'm gonna mention it right now, again, was a large space that was not equal to the DA office, a little bit smaller, maybe 75% or so is the public defense space. 3 officers, so. And we're not even talking about, but we're talking about space issues. When I saw that space, I was like, what is that? Oh, 3 offices, a workstation, bathroom, like, well, we don't have any public defenders that work full-time. They're not city employees, they're consortium. Morrow County Consortium for Public Defense is Blue Mountain Defenders. They have their office in Hermiston, and they have private attorneys that contract with it. Said, our public defender comes only on Thursday. That's when we have our normal court. That's when he's there. He's not gonna have an office there. I mean, and when we're looking at just that space, I was like, they need a space to meet with clients, but that is a single drop-in office. That's all they've ever asked for, or all they ever wanted. And so I was kind of surprised when I asked, well, where did this come from? It sounded like Oregon Public Defense Services said, oh, this is a space we need. I did reach out to a local public defender. Said, well, did you talk to them about this? Did you propose this? No, they never reached out to me. So I feel that we are being pushed for larger space in some of these spots, that we are nitpicking some of the county space, when in fact it is the state space, some of these ones, particularly public defense, that I know for a fact will not be utilized except for court days, and even then, not that much space. It's just an odd find. There's a couple offices. So it's not huge, but it's just that stood out to me. the conference, a check-in office, screening, that space just I didn't understand that aspect. And I think we're defaulting to the fact saying, well, if this is what the state says they need it. And I would say, I know for a fact that is not. The only thing that public defense said when I asked Dan Stevens about it, I said, hey, what is this? Like, well, maybe they're thinking for the future. I said, awesome. I said, well, I wasn't thinking directed for the future. I could say, if this is a 100-year building, better give me 3 or 4 more offices. I said, that cost would be way too much. And so future planning is important, but when I looked at this cost, just a little thing like that stood out to me of saying, really, that aspect. And I think, even we're looking at the justice, the court aspect right now too. I know Judge Steele, if he was here, he could probably explain better. But that's generally, I know in the courthouse now, it is 2 days a week, Monday and Tuesdays, because Wednesday and Thursday, Fridays are in here again. The courtroom is generally not used except for the video appearances for in custody cases. And so, I looked at the courthouse space, everything else, like, oh gosh, when we have a courtroom here, we thought about what space is needed. If we said, hey, can we just transition to the justice court? I was thinking, oh, what space is used now? Primarily the office. And the courtroom, in my opinion, from what I've seen, is generally used because they have the Polycom. Like, he's in the courtroom because, when I say Polycom, they're video conferencing that connects to the jail. That's why it has to be in that room.
Yeah.
Because they're the ones that have it set up where they do the video, which really could be done in an office too, because they're just in custody, usually cases. Other ones are drop-in, people coming by, but they're not, those meetings take place in an office, not in the courtroom. So just different things, I think, things to think about here, trying to paint the picture of how the space is utilized now, how we use our space, and potentially, people are moved over. The hard part is the cost. It's so expensive. I know at times by us moving over, even justice court, if other offices moved, then that frees up space in the courthouse. Like, does that free up the courtroom to be utilized more as the Board of Commissioner chambers? Setting that up by keeping that historic look still to it. Just things like that. So those are just comments I want to make for thinking about reducing costs. I was at our meeting yesterday screaming a little bit saying, I'll tell you how I can save money right here in this space, public defense. Just little things. So I just want to bring that
I
up.
thought it was in the DA's office.
You can sit them right there. All they need is a spare office and I'll provide it to them. All right. Because I can guarantee you it will not be utilized but for 1 day a week and maybe.
Yeah, the public defenders is an interesting one. When we started this project, we didn't even have that applied, and yet it's come out as a state requirement that's going to be coming into effect by the time this is under construction. I would agree with Justin. What they are saying is required is a little overblown for our current operations that we see. But it's what the state's saying it's required, so it's tagged on along with our requirements with the state circuit court.
So the square footage that's being proposed is the minimum that the state will allow us to do.
Yes, for 1,000 square feet.
Yes, we talked them, so I've been having extensive conversations with OPDC and talked them down to 1,000 square feet total gross square footage, so that suite's a little less than that. In terms of what square footage they need, that they are a new agency that's restructuring and now in the executive branch instead of the judicial branch, and so they are looking to see how OPDC and how public defense is going to be distributed in the state in the future, and they see there are big changes happening. So this is the space that they say they need, and it's tied to your 50% match.
We also do plan to meet with them again, similar to the other user groups, to review their space. And the last time we met with them was right before it moved to Hefner. So maybe the context of Boardman could impact it.
Obviously, I think that the consensus here is that get it to the minimum square footage that they need.
Yeah.
That's acceptable to them.
We've had conversations with them, even could it be provided at a different location, like could they have space here used instead of, or we're right in another building where they could use that space as opposed to being in the courthouse, and they're saying, so.
So in terms of giving guidance, it seemed to me like you and Dave were both more in favor of just getting the justice court, just take it out completely. And
That was what I took Dave to say.
that was what I understood Dave to say. Would it be okay to say, leave the shell in, and then if at the next one, it's not in the budget, then cut it out?
The D
With the D.
recap.
Yeah.
So your thoughts, Dave?
Get them unmuted.
Matt, we're on to you.
Yeah, I think what he said is accurate. I also got to remember, in my mind, if we're making a decision based on cost estimates, you have to think of what has been the quality of those estimates so far in this project.
Yeah, so if I understand it right, and Dave's on board with this, is that kind of move forward, but you can't get under budget, the circuit court's out.
Justice.
Justice. Because they keep talking about circuit court building again. It's Justice Court.
Thing that's so small.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know,
Justice
All
Court,
up to
though,
the district attorney.
this is great. I'm on board.
Okay.
Okay.
So we're gonna proceed as is, and at the end of July, when we come back at DD, we'll have a hard discussion about costs, and then you guys can give us marching orders.
Okay, that sounds good to me.
That work?
Thank you.
Thank you, no, appreciate it.
Thank you. And I just want to express appreciation. I mean, this was a seminal meeting. Our entire design team is represented here. Appreciate them making sure they come out for these discussions. I love engaging with them over Zoom, but it's always good to see you in person, especially for these type of conversations.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you,
This
guys.
with us.
Appreciate it.
But this is kind of a draft.
You're gonna take that
We're
with
gonna
you?
have a better one for the rodeo, we think.
Okay, that'd be cool. If you want to take that with you, and
Community presentation.
I don't want to tell Collins that their house looked washed away in the flood. So.
Our neighbors' houses on there,
Their
right?
shed.
Oh, it's their shed. Okay, yeah, if you want to take that, that's great, and we look forward to having that for the fair. That'll be awesome.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
And hopefully we'll have actually some cool rendering posters on that as well.
Oh, look at it.
I noticed that the courthouse is 3D print instead of.
All that's 3D printed. This is just chipboard.
That's cool.
Yeah, 3D print.
Thanks for putting that together. Austin.
Yeah.
We need to push these back down.
Yeah, give me this.
Try to get it back in one piece.
Next item is contract arrangement for family planning services. Is Robin, are you online?
She actually might not be online. She notified me this morning that she went to walk the dog this morning and he yanked her on the leash and she fell off the porch and twisted her ankle something fierce. So she's home convalescing. Oh, are you on here? Robin?
I actually am on here.
Oh, good. You're the okay.
You know me, yeah.
Good to have you. Robin, do you want to introduce the contract and then I'll add in on the schedule change?
Sure. Thank you. Good morning, Commissioner. Sorry, I'm not there in person. We are looking to contract for our family planning services with Dr. Emily Jack, who is currently our public health officer for our clinic, but now she would kind of be serving a dual role. And the reason for that is our contract with Amanda Roy, who is a physician's assistant. That contract, excuse me, is due to terminate at the end of this month, April 30th. So the contract that you have in your packet was due to start May 1st, but I think Matt has some updates as to why that might be extended out a bit. So that's pretty much all I have. I don't know if you have questions about that.
So the contract is set up so she provides family planning services at least once a quarter. That's what we usually have.
Correct.
But the issue that we have, and it was pointed out to us, is there's an IRS violation if we place someone under a contracted position compared to an employee, contract employee position, which this is proposed. If their services are too related. Our health officer does have where it says support family health planning.
Mhm.
And so that is too close to what this is. What we'd like to do is just amend this contract to say it starts June 1st. And then over the next two meetings, we're gonna rework the public health officer contract so that it's a little bit updated, has a little bit better, and puts it into the contract employee status as well. And so that way we have both of them on equal standing, provides good coverage for the individual in that role, as well as the county, and gets us out of any IRS quagmire that we might be. And so we're asking for consideration so we can show that we do have plan coverage for our family planning services starting June 1st. And we, in the next two regular meetings, will be bringing a revised public health officer contract for you that will be under a contract employee agreement. We're keeping them separate, which you might ask, and it has been asked me, why keep them separate? Emily has expressed interest in providing the services. She's not quite sure on her availability for family health. She's planning about 2 years there. Her health officer, she's happy to continue that. I don't want it to be a single contract where she has to pull out of both, so we can contract her with two. That will mean that when she does keep track of her time, she'll have to designate which service she's providing at that time. And so it'll be set up that way. So we do that with other things. I mean, we have plenty of people who have to track their times and what they're doing, so it's billed accordingly. So that's what I'm hoping to do. So we can proceed with that, make sure she's in place. We can get that scheduled, make it effective June 1st. The first service won't be until July, but we'd like to not have any overlap of those two contracts. So we'll be working on the public health officer contract over the next few weeks and getting that to you, hopefully in the first meeting of June.
I have a couple more things to add. Thank you for that, Administrator Jensen. I've reached out to the state to make sure that there isn't any issue with our services, with there being a lapse in provider for that month's time, and I'm waiting to hear back from them. And also, I did reach out to Emily Jack to make her aware that the contract would start June 1st versus May 1st. And I haven't heard back from her yet either.
Make a motion. I move to approve a contract employee agreement with Dr. Emily Jack to provide family planning services starting June 1st.
Oh, second. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah.
Any discussion, Dave?
Nope.
Okay, we'll take the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Next item, Morrow County Parks logging contract. Greg. Morning.
Good morning.
Parks has put out, we usually in the past, it has a logging contractor on hand. It's been expired for a couple of years, not the last one. So we put out another one. We had two logging contractors put in. We had a panel that selected Ted Britt as contractor. I have a contractor put together with Vince and for the final timber contract. I have that one signed here by Ted. Give that to you, Valerie. That's the signed one. Sandy also has a copy of that with as long as the copy of the insurance. So
Can you just describe what the services are?
the services, what we have is for 3 parks, what we do. I've got a lot of hazard trees that really need to be moved out of Cusforth. Of course, they're not your prime trees for logging, but we do log the other 2 parks when needed. Answer right is very rare, but we're time for it too. With these logging contracts, what we got to do is it's tough to put a number on it because it depends on what your tree yield is. and also what the market is. 6 months ago, I wouldn't have even considered because the logging market, there's nothing there, there's no pulp prices. You've got to check your keep on track of your pricing for your lumber trees and your pulp. If they're not there, we can't afford it. Yes, ideal, we make a lot of money, but that's not usually because of, you pay your trucking, your time, your lumber, and then you got your lumber taxes on top of that, timber taxes. So that's kind of where we're at with this contract. We won't go in a hole. Obviously, if we can't make our money we're expending, then we don't log. That's why this is out of a 3-year contract, because there's times a year you can't log. In the winter, it might be too soft, you don't get the freezes, we're not tearing parks up to log. Fire season, we're gonna be really very cautious. There's a lot going in with these that thinking of getting it planned out. I'm hoping that this is a 3-year contract with possibly an extension, depending on how our weather goes and lumber prices. Because those 3 parks, they do need some attention and they need to be taken care of.
Okay, is it any questions for Greg?
Oh, yeah, I have just one comment. I know Ted Brett when he was here, and I don't know if Greg will support this, but I've talked to people he's logged for. He seems conscientious, he knows the area, so I think, even though he lives in Yakima now, but he been doing a lot of work up there, so he does know our area, know our people.
Thank you. Ted he rents a place, basically, right there off 207. He doesn't go home very often. I've had him log with us before. His logging practices are extremely clean and efficient. My first time with him when he came to the parks logging, because this is not the way I look at it. Maybe this is wrong. It's not Forest Service, this is parks. It's got to be clean. It's got to be, can't be destroyed. First 2 weeks he logged, he came to me and I said, well, he said, no, wait. He stopped logging. He went and bought another $1 million machine to make sure that it's done right. So, and it was clean.
Yeah, I agree with that assessment. And like I said, the people that I have talked to that he's logged for, and that's pretty much what they said about him. He'll understand that this is a park.
He does. And he's also stated that if we don't make money, he doesn't make money.
I'll make a motion that we approve and sign the logging contract between Morrow County and Ted R. Britt Logging.
Also,
Sorry, Dave.
no, that's okay.
Any other question? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Thank you, Greg. Next up is a fiscal agent agreement from Morrow County Clean Water.
Yes, and I'll invite Kevin to chime in if you have any questions on this. Because of the nature of the IGA for the Clean Water Consortium, it was signed and approved that Morrow County would be the fiscal agent in that agreement. And this formalizes that, outlines the responsibilities. There's no charges for this. For the clean water, we're more or less volunteering on this because of the good of the community, helping getting this set up. We did have the Clean Water Consortiums crafted this document, and then Justin and Kevin went over it as well and made some changes. Yesterday, the Clean Water Consortium passed it with one amendment. So if you've got that, I will outline what that is. It's on the first page at the bottom one. There was a question about budget committee requirements, and on this respect 4A1 talks about the budget procedures according to Council of Governments. They struck the portion of that section, so it should read adopting an annual budget and then strike the next until it comes to and timely provide a copy of the adopted budget of the county. So it just strikes out that portion of requiring the budget set up according to the certain ORSs that we believe are optional and not a requirement. So this one sets it up. The fiscal agent arrangement is that the Clean Water Consortium prepares the budget, provides it to the county records it, and they distribute funds. They receive the funds and only distribute it according to the direction of the CWC directors. It is part of our pooled cash area, but it is separated as its own budget and such. And so there is commingling of funds, but it's all tracked in our accounting areas. Kevin, did I miss anything on that? So,
I don't think so.
all right. So as you notice, this has signatures by the entire BOC because the unique creation of this of being, our chair is the chair of the Clean Water Consortium. We didn't want just one signature on it, so we're having all members of each body sign this, so we make it good. So we're asking the Board of Commissioners to consider this with that with the amended language for 4 at A1, striking that one line in that section, and ask for your consideration so we can get the fiscal agent set up.
Kevin, you raise your hand.
Yeah, certainly support this agreement. Just a note for the record, my only hesitation or concern about the agreement in general is depending on the types of funding that the water consortium can get, particularly if it has federal grants or other grants with significant compliance requirements. The workload for that could become quite burdensome, and there's no consideration in this agreement financially back to the county for that. So just something that I wanted to just highlight for the commissioners, that there may be a point in time when a lot of time required on this, and we have to address what that looks like.
Thank you for sharing that. And that was something that I had been thinking about. I think we are at a spot where we're willing to sort of put that bill for goodwill, but if you could keep track of that and appraise us and say, hey, this is getting a little out of hand.
Oh, I'll let you know.
You'll let us know.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
And I don't foresee
Yeah.
that, anytime in the near future. So,
But
yeah, there'll be communication.
So on that note, my impression is that sometimes grants you can build in there an administrative fee. So if we're going forward, especially if it seems that the workload on you is burdensome, and it's a cost to the county, we look at putting that administrative fee built into the grant to help offset the cost.
well, with that, I'll move to approve the agreement to have Morrow County serve as a fiscal agent for the Morrow County Clean Water Consortium, and the agreement presented with the amendment in 4A1 as discussed.
I'll second.
Been moved and second. Any other further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Carried. Moving on, next one, payment in motion purchase of supplies contract, air times, Matt.
Thank you, commissioners. Matt's gonna take the lead on this. I'm gonna do some explaining, make sure things are open in the record.
So the reason why we have this, generally this one would be almost under consent agenda. The reason why we have it as a business item is it is of a certain size that the BOC needs to approve it. but also just because of the particular situations behind this. It was set out as an RFP or invitation to bid. We only had one respondent. And so that always kind of triggers a red flag. The other issue is that the respondent is a family company that has relations with our Public Works Director. So just to be completely transparent, we wanted just to get it on public record on the discussion of this. The contractor in question is our current contractor. They had bid out and had been awarded previously through an open invite. On this one, they're the only respondent on it. And we believe there's some extenuating circumstances on that. One of the other known contractors recently went through a transition, so they might just not have been available or interested in pursuing that. And then the other one is based out of Washington and has expressed some concerns about requirements in Oregon. That said, the total cost increase from last year's contract is $5 a ton, which is fairly minimal and actually quite surprising compared to what gas prices currently, oil prices and gas prices are going through right now. That said, since it is the existing contractor and we haven't had any issues, it's also important to note that while Eric provided the information for the invitation to bid, he did not manage that. We did that through our risk and procurement administrator, so that's a clean break of separation. So it was just reported to him what the results of the invitation to bid was, and we're asking for the BOC permission to proceed with this, even though it's only a single respondent on this bid. The competitive nature of the pricing that came in, we feel justifies proceeding with the award, and we'll continue to, as these contracts come up, we'll continue to try to get as many bids as possible, as we always do.
So I do have a question on a wording contract.
Okay.
Page 2, second line down. And
Morrow County reserves the right. One.
124 of our packet, page 2 of the contract, grant supplying delivery motion. Motion 2.
Okay, get down to it. All right, what was that?
So it's the second line down, from paying for such work or planned funding source. Would it be from planned funding source?
So the county is prohibited from paying for such work or the planned, yeah, it should be.
What I found.
We can note and do a correction on that.
Yeah, it's really small.
We'll just do a correction on that and do an initial on that. That's okay.
Anything else? No. I think this is really good. Making sure I'm gonna say the names right.
Name of the contact, Enviro, Enviro.
Okay. I move to approve the proposed contract with Enviro LLC to supply ambient mix asphalt.
A second.
Emulsion. I think that's not a word I have a lot of experience with.
You don't throw that down on the crops much.
Second, Dave?
Oh, yeah, a second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the contract in Enviro for a paving motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Item J, adjustment reinvestment grant preliminary application support letter request. Brian Snyder.
Good morning again, commissioners.
Good morning again.
Got me a little bit out of my expertise area, but This is the parole probation JRP grant. This is the renewal, or it's coming up for renewal. In this process, they have requested support letters. In the packet, there are several support letters that Lieutenant Wilson has already obtained. Our request today is for you to review and hopefully sign the attached support letter supporting this grant. This grant currently right now provides community-based supervision and services for people convicted of nonviolent crimes, which in short, it pays for one of our parole and probation positions. It also pays a portion of the coordinator's wages as well. It reduces recidivism. That's a hard word. Through evidence-based practices and while protecting the public safety, and it reduces prison population for property, drug, and driving offenses.
Any questions, Brian? Anybody?
No, you prepared? I move that we sign the support letter for the justice reinvestment.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to sign the letter and support.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Okay, item G, LCD solar siting, additional consideration. I believe that was you, Bess.
Yes. So this has to do with just really wanting to make sure, particularly Morrow County's voice is being heard regarding the solar siting rules, given that we are, among the most affected, if not the most affected. And the proposed letter that is attached that I'm trying to get to so that I can is just really focusing particularly on cumulative impacts, so that I've gotten a lot of folks from farmers to community members to electric providers who are really concerned that the way that projects are stacking up in Morrow County are going to lead to cumulative effects that are not as planned for as they could be. And so this is just a letter sort of like really solidifying. We want to make sure that we are given the tools to assess those cumulative impacts in a way that fits what's happening in Morrow County, because a lot of the rules were not made for projects as big as what's going in here. So that's it. So I'm asking my fellow commissioners to agree to this letter to send regarding the solar siting rules. That's it.
David, do you have any comments?
Well, when's our work session on solar issues? Is it next meeting? We were gonna talk, wasn't the DOR supposed to be there, and we had some other items?
So that's the 30th with the assessor in the revenues presentation.
Yeah.
So
I don't know, I kind of like to, since this is a big topic, like you say, we got another one looking at, I'd kind of like to do a little more talking about this.
Okay.
Maybe part of the work session.
I think that the deadline is April 30th.
that's the day of it.
That's the day of it. So we could
Have the letter ready?
we could have the letter ready, and if we choose to sign it, we could submit it in time. So I think that would work.
That's what I'd like to do.
Request, David, is
I-
over until our April 30th special meeting.
What's that?
Your request is to set this item over until the April 30th meeting?
Work session, right? Do we have a work session?
It'll be a special session because we do have 2 items of business. If this would be added to it.
Okay, so there will be action at that time, yeah, okay. Yeah, well, yeah, I just think, I just think we need to talk more about the whole picture of solar in Morrow County, since there are, as Tamara alluded to earlier, they're piling up in Morrow County. And I think we ought to take a whole look at how we look at it and not, that's my thought.
I'm good with that.
I'm not necessarily against this, I think we need to have some serious discussion amongst the commissioners and get a clarified picture of where we're going, as far as a county and a BOC, where they're going in relation to how we deal with solar. That's my thought, so. I'll make a motion to hold this over until, or do we, I don't know, was Justin there? How do we table this, Justin, or do we hold it over?
I like the term continue this or set this over until the April 30th special session.
I make a motion, we continue this till April 30th meeting.
I'll second.
We're moving second, we continue this item until the April 30th special meeting of the Board of Commissioners. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. So on one of the things like you're talking about, Gus, you know, years ago, I know that there was, through the planning department and stuff, kind of at the time that the Wheat Ridge line was being proposed and before it was built, talks of transmission corridors, so that we don't get, I think some of what you may be alluding to is, you know, transmission lines running all over.
Just, yeah, all over the place and then cut them off and then so then we have to run lines farther out, yeah.
Yeah, I think that, you know, building transmission corridors, encouraging to the extent that we can, lines built, like Wheat Ridge was built with a far amount of excess capacity, 2.5, 3 times the amount that was needed for that project. So
And
you're basically building a super freeway and then you build on off ramps to get onto the super freeway instead of having a bunch of highways running zigzag all over.
Yeah, that's one of the issues that, like to see us address, yeah.
Next time, correspondence, anything?
Jeff, can I ask one more question? Could just going back to the 30th meeting, maybe we could get Mike Gorman, our discussion on this previously, and have you talked to the DOR person? Is that, because that was going to be one of the components of our meeting at that time, how we handle tax abatement. Is that correct, Mike? Are you there?
I'm not, he was here earlier, let me see. Well, I had talked with him last week and, Mike, you there?
Anyway, we had alluded to the fact that we would like the DOR rep there, because that was going to be a component of our discussion, is the tax abatement programs and how we handle them in the pilot and the SIP and all this. So, and, you know, battery and actual solar generation. So hopefully that'll be part of our discussion.
Yes, I talked with Mike. He has confirmed that that the DLR group will have a representative there. He was asking me whether we are having it 9 or 1, and I said whatever works best for them, we can flex to that. So they are planning on it. I just haven't heard back if it's a morning or afternoon session.
Good, thank you. That's all I have on it.
So we are moving on next correspondence. Anything, Valerie?
No.
Commissioner reports. Yes.
I'm going to County College tomorrow for the weekend along with some fine individuals, and so I'm excited to do that. And I'll report back on what we learned.
Okay. David, anything from you?
No, I don't. Went to the BCDA and gave a report there. I was sick yesterday, so I wasn't able to go with Matt to the Irrigon City Council, and that was the CWC actually. So yeah, that's about all I had.
I don't know that I have much to report, other than I guess I do have a request is You know, last time Gus asked that I forward our rules for the meeting.
Mhm.
Can you get me that?
Oh, yes. All right, yes.
So, because I believe next week is the CDA meeting, so
Mhm.
I'd like to get it in.
Thank you.
In front of Kim.
Yeah.
Have consideration. Okay, executive session. Are we having? Yes. Is there anything special I need to read other than what's on the agenda?
Don't have a, okay. So yeah, sorry, read the line on the agenda and this paragraph.
This one?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Morrow County Board of Commissioners will be entering an executive session under ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub P to consider matters relating to cybersecurity infrastructure and responses to the cybersecurity threats. Representatives of the news media and designated staff shall be allowed to attend the executive session. All other members of the audience are asked to leave the room. Representatives of the news media are specifically directed not to report on or otherwise disclose any of the deliberations or anything said about these subjects during the executive session, except to state the general subject of the session as previously announced. No decision may be made in the executive session. At the end of the executive session, we will return to open session and welcome that back. And there may be a decision, of course.
There may, we have it down here as a may.
Okay.
So,
Going to executive session.
Okay.
That will be fine. Matt will put everybody in a waiting room.
yes, and I do see that we do have a reporter on here, and as Dave is phoning in, we'll allow her to attend.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Dave.
are we gonna take a quick 5-minute break before we start the executive?
We can.
Can we? I'm requesting it.
Yes.
Okay. A quick
Until
5-minute
we get
break,
back.
not a long 5-minute, quick. Thank you.
Okay, so we're coming out of executive session. There's not going to be any action to be taken by the Board of Commissioners as a result of the executive session. And so if there's nothing else, we're adjourned.
Good job.